Hi, my name is Seraphia Gravelle. I'm the Community Equity and Anti-Racism Organizer for Kutaska Community Action. I'm here today with Lee H. Jordan. He is the Midwest and State Director of the National Juneteenth, and Nathaniel Coward, who is the Executive Director of VEMA, Voices for Ethnic and Multicultural Awareness. And we are here to talk to you today about Juneteenth, its significance, why it is such an important part of our history, and why it's important to the community of Grand Rapids.
And I think that's a great start
Thanks.
to kind of to get us started. Because why is Juneteenth so important?
Right.
And first of all, what has been amazing to me, first of all, this is like the second year that this, there's been a state holiday or a national holiday. So a lot of people now are aware, of Juneteenth, is what, but exactly what it is and how to celebrate. And the best way that I can kind of bring it to a better understanding is Juneteenth is a celebration of freedom. And if you believe in freedom, then you should be celebrating Juneteenth. Yeah. Yes, it centers around the end of slavery here in America and the information being shared, within the 13 states that were still in rebellion. But and that also leads us to the point that each state does have its own freedom story. And it's important for us, and each and every one of us, to tell those freedom stories. And that is a big part of what Juneteenth is. So the celebration itself, it is a celebration and a commemoration. A celebration of freedom, and what that means, but a commemoration of the end of slavery here in America.
Yeah.
So thank y'all for the opportunity to be here in Grand Rapids and in the surrounding areas, to bring the importance of Juneteenth and the importance of how to even just be involved. There's a chance to volunteer at events and have as something as simple as your own red drink salute. Because a red drink is a part of the Juneteenth celebration that represents the blood that's been shared. So you don't have to be at a special place. It's nice to gather, but you could do something on your own to commemorate your ancestors, to commemorate the history. You can take on a more of a personal approach to it. And we are talking about, as I said, the end of slavery in America. It's not just African American history, it is American history.
Absolutely.
And we all have a part in that story.
Yep.
So, like I said, please don't get me started, because this could be like like one of those network marathons where it just kind of just goes on. But it's important for me, really, for people to understand that we are talking about freedom, and none are free until we all are free.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's good. That's very well said.
Hey, I've been kind of talking for a while.
That's all right.
I'm 65 years old, so my mother said, it's like, is that child trying to talk in his crib? So talking is one of the things that I do. And I appreciate the opportunity to have something to talk about this year.
Right.
And Juneteenth is a big part of that.
Yeah, for me, it was just being up here in this area. I've been here for like, 20-something years, 25 years, originally from Florida.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it's a freedom story there.
Yeah.
And we could talk about that too.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Right. So, and just seeing that there's, it ain't a lot of diversity here, culturally. So just seeing something like this happening, I think that's very important. I'm really surprised that they actually did it. With the help, people help sponsoring it, like, Kutaska and stuff. But I think that's really good because people need to see it,
And they need to know it.
Right.
It is a part of American history.
Yeah.
And slavery, yes. The stories, let's say, I'm going to back up here for a minute. Working with Juneteenth in the past 30 years, because like I say, I started actually just going to Juneteenth.
Right.
And then from going to Juneteenth, I became one of the vendors, at a Juneteenth.
What was the first one you went to?
I went to my first Juneteenth probably about in 1978, 79.
Okay.
Yeah. And then after that, like I say, became a vendor. and then became part of the different committees for Juneteenth. And then now, this is my second year as the Midwest and State Director. So for all you people out there in North Dakota, South Dakota, and Iowa, go to the Juneteenth Speaks page if you have any questions about Juneteenth and how to celebrate and the importance of Juneteenth. Please get a hold of me, because I'm only one person. So sometimes you might want to reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to help in any way that I can.
All right, that's what's up. Anything you'd like to add?
Well, I mean, I think I was just telling Lee on our way here this morning, I wasn't here all week last week, and so I didn't get the opportunity to see that they have banners up
Yes.
that say the community of Grand Rapids commemorates Juneteenth. I'm not sure of the
Day,
exact wording, but I just saw that and I was really just taken aback, and it got me emotional, and I was like, man, that is such a big deal. That is such a big deal in this community. And, I just had one of those moments where I was like,
But
yes.
it's a good moment. It's a
Yeah,
good
it
moment.
was. It was just, it was
Because-
beautiful.
Yes, to be able to take a step towards, as I like to say, it's right there in the title. We're called the United States.
Yeah.
Right.
We need to start acting like it.
Yeah.
And one way to do that is to be able to include everyone in the stories of what makes up America.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that's been an amazing journey for me about Juneteenth. As I like to say, Juneteenth has me asking all the right questions.
Right.
Because if you had 10,000 colored men in Galveston, Texas, at the same time that General Granger was there, knowing that these men were from all over, Illinois, Arkansas, Texas, and so forth and so on, and made me start to think, well, I wonder if any of my ancestors actually were a part of that group. So, 10,000. Mm-hmm. So, and so we have what we call Juneteenth 101, which I'd be more than happy to get into people's hands if you decide you want one. But we really kind of talk about the importance not only of just the story of Galveston, Texas, but the date of June 19th. Mm-hmm. It's one of those numbers that just kind of keeps popping up in history. Right. And once you sit down and start collecting the data, you see it just keeps popping up. Mm-hmm. Yeah. In fact, the March on Washington, in the 1960s, was on the 19th of June.
Mm-hmm. Really?
So so they're still, somebody said, well, why don't we do it on Juneteenth? And made it, so it is important for each of us. And that's another thing too. It's important for each of us, especially within the African American community. Mm-hmm. We hold the keys to our own history. Right. Yeah. So it's important to do those DNA tests. It's important to do those genealogy, forms, so that so we can actually connect these stories, because we are the history. Right. So, and Juneteenth is a big part of that.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I warned you, I'm a talker, so you have to cut me off whenever.
No, that's all right. You were really just talking about something that I was thinking about anyways, which is, if we're going to come together as a community fully and wholly, then we have to understand that we have a shared history.
Absolutely.
Because we can't have a shared future until we understand our shared history. And that's something that's really important. And I think that this Juneteenth celebration coming up gives us a real opportunity for people to learn about our shared history, and for others to share themselves, their own histories and
the common bonds that we have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because and that's one of the things that we talk about, the common bond of freedom, and how the elements of freedom are in everyone's story. Yeah, and if you start telling those stories, then you find that you do have this common bond. And where that is, that leads us to a better understanding of each other. Yeah, and once again, back to that title, we would be more of the United States.
Absolutely. Nathaniel, how do you feel, how do you feel about having this celebration here? What does it mean to you to have this in these communities, or you know, for yourself and your family, your children?
Yeah, because I got children that grew up here, right? Born here, raised here.
Wow.
So, yeah, been here 20-some years, so now they're adults.
Wow.
And now becoming a grandparent. Yeah, so, and just seeing, you know, if you listen to the stories of, you know, the mixed or indigenous people here, you know, you listen to the stories they have growing up in the schools here, it's horrible. I mean, it's crazy. They don't, you know, so just to be able to have something like this that can maybe open the door for people to talk, you know, even these people to share their stories about, you know, what they went through in school here and because a lot of people don't believe that they have these issues, racism and stuff like that in these small towns. They don't believe it's real. They don't believe it because they don't see it. So maybe this will open up dialogue. Maybe they'll start teaching it in school here. And
that is an important thing as well too, because unless you talk about the pain, and one of my things, you can't really heal the pain because you can't identify it. Yeah, and let's say, for instance, I'm originally from Arizona, and the whole time that I lived in Arizona, the state fair was on Indian School Road in Arizona. And I just found out just recently that the reason why it was called Indian School Road is because the Indian school was on that road.
Right.
You know, something just that simple, but yeah, and people say things over and over and not really knowing the history thereof. So talking about, you know, things kind of gives, you know, the history, the almost reverence and sometimes a better understanding of what and how we can move forward. And once again, Juneteenth can be a part of that, you know, that process in itself.
Right.
Absolutely. It's definitely a great springboard.
Absolutely. I agree.
To push us forward in conversation and storytelling and learning and all of that.
Storytelling.
Well, that's what you were doing the whole time?
Hey, like I said, I've been... My parents always looked at me and said, "Will that boy ever shut up?" He just constantly talking. But the thing of it is that I would tell them what happened in school and, you know, how I skinned my knee in the playground. And it's like, Lord, let's some of the other kids talk. You go. So storytelling is I guess it's a part of me. Yeah, okay. And that's why I'm a filmmaker as well.
Oh, okay.
You know, so yes. Oh, you.
A minute fastest. Look at that.
So storytelling and the importance of being able to, as we were talking, and for Native Americans and indigenous people, there's a history, and for people of color, you know, the story in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with the Tulsa massacre. Yeah, the fact that, you know, the African American people lived within, the land of the indigenous people there. They said, well, hey, come and live in our area. Yeah. So we know there's a history there. Yeah, and it's up to us. Yeah, and this is my plea for young people. Please start learning your history. Yeah. Because your history, it's important. It gives you a little bit more of an understanding of who you are, where you come from, and the importance of your space in this world. Yeah. So, you know, knowing that, and once again, a lot of our history is just now coming out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're able to share that history. Yeah, and knowing, as I said before, 10,000, you know, colored men in Galveston, Texas, and now I get to find out possibly if one of them was one of my ancestors because I'm doing that history, and I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for the next generation that I have in front of me. That I look and see my grandparents' face and smile and eyes and so forth in these amazing little faces. Yeah. So I have an obligation to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I know, I'm sorry. And like I said, you put a quarter in me, I'm good to go. But at the quarter is Juneteenth. Put that quarter in me, and I'm good to go. But
all good.
So, is there anything that you all want to ask me? I mean,
since you asked.
Okay.
All right. So, when you first, how old were you when you first heard about Juneteenth?
Once again, as I said before, Juneteenth has you asking all the right questions, because once I found out about Juneteenth, you know, here in Minnesota.
Oh, you was in Minnesota?
I was in Minnesota. then it made me start to wonder, did my parents celebrate Juneteenth? Because I remember red velvet cake. Okay, I remember the cake.
Okay.
But was that because of Juneteenth? And what traditions that that I was a part of, but not knowing why I was a part of them.
Right.
But it was something that you did. Yeah,
Right.
I mean the barbecuing. That was that's something that you did. But yet at the same time, once again, it's one of those traditions at a Juneteenth celebration that there is that you do a big old barbecue.
Right.
So there is a whole lot to the commemoration and the celebration itself.
Do you think it's a problem when people, like, we have a celebration like Juneteenth and then people don't understand what it is and they just celebrate? They have no education behind it. Do you think that's a problem?
What they say, a problem or is just a situation that you haven't quite handled yet or whatever.
Right.
Yes, there are some people that may have that mindset, but it's up to a certain group to make sure that even if that is what you do, and you keep coming. You keep coming, you keep coming, you keep coming, and sooner or later you're going to realize that there's something else going around in the area. There's history going around in the area. There's community supporting black businesses and businesses of color within the society itself. So you keep coming and you start to realize that maybe I should do a little bit more.
Right.
Because not everybody, as what we say, is not everybody who's woke at the same time.
Right.
There are some people who will hit that snooze button till they break it off.
Right.
But it's an opportunity once again to continue to put that information out there. So that it's there.
Right.
And then and for those of us that are woke, stay woke. Because it's important for us, to continue to tell, the unified story that we want people to know.
Right.
Absolutely.
It was this young lady from Africa from ICC, and we talked about it. And do you remember her name? It's my fault. I didn't have time to prep. I was like, man, what is her name? She said they should change 4th of July to Juneteenth, since that's when everyone, technically was free.
Well,
what do you think about that?
I think that Juneteenth can actually be a bigger umbrella of the celebration of freedom.
Okay.
Because as we all know, I mean, if people want to read something, read the speech of Frederick Douglass, "What is the 4th of July to the slave?"
Right. That was good.
So that automatically lets you know that there might be a little bit of, let's just say, some stories that just didn't lend itself to a bigger picture.
Yeah.
Right.
Juneteenth can be that bigger celebration of our common bond of freedom.
Right.
Where and telling that story and telling the stories and telling like I said, the history that is there. I mean, the fact that Canada, how many hours away are we from Canada?
Maybe 1.5.
Okay.
Dang, I didn't even know that.
So when you think about that, think about the fact that Canada was considered a freedom. That was that promised land, that freedom, the freedom promised land, right?
Right.
Well, when they got there, they charged them $5 a head, to get into Canada. Well, how many slaves happen to have $5?
Right.
So if they were turned around at the border and you're only like an hour and some away, that could mean that some of the African American people that were here, that have been here for a while, could be the descendants of the people that went to Canada, couldn't get in, and ended up coming back.
Right.
So once again, Juneteenth has you asking all the right questions.
Yeah.
Thank you. I didn't know that. See, I learned something today. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Oh, my pleasure, totally. Yeah.
Right. Do you have any children of color?
I do.
How do you feel about that, being that he's young? And
I always think that it's really important to celebrate people. And I think that I think one of the things that gets me really excited about Juneteenth and celebrating Juneteenth in the community is that, you know, like my children and other children of color get to come here and finally like just feel like they matter and they're important here, you know. And I think that's really a big part of what drives me, I guess, to push for these kinds of things, and is because you know, that's just one of those things that we need to get across to people, you know, is that
inclusion.
Yeah, you know, there are people of color here. They are a part of this community. They're woven into the community, you know, and they're important to this community. And not only, you know, just letting people know that there are people here, you know, and they are important to this community, but also letting those people of color know you are important here. You mean something here, and we're going to celebrate you, you know? And so I just think that that's amazing. And I think another big part of it is, you know, the opportunity to showcase Black excellence, because that's something that we didn't, we haven't really gotten to see up here in a public way or an open way, you know. And so it's always like this big deal to have like, oh, there's a Black doctor at the hospital, or
I'm still
you know,
having first.
Right, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
that
And
part.
so,
Yeah, and you would think by now we'd be like in the like seconds and thirds and fourths and fifths, but now we're still having first. Yeah, that's kind of like an issue.
So
That's one of my little buttons.
Yeah, it's beautiful, and it's important for our kids to be able to see, you know, all of the people in this community who look just like them, who are doing amazing and beautiful things.
And speaking of youth, I would love for you all to help me with, you know, we're doing our first Miss Juneteenth scholarship program this year.
Oh, that's amazing.
And the age range is from, if I'm not mistaken, would be from 14 to 18. I'll have to check the website. It's been a while since I've been to it. But we want to actually make sure that, you know, not only especially for young women as well, you know, but you know, the Miss Juneteenth is a program set up to give young ladies an opportunity to just kind of shine in their own light. Right. Yeah, and to be in there's the national contest, which will be in Texas this year in October. Yeah, whoever wins Miss Juneteenth will be sent to represent Minnesota. Yeah, in the contest. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So is there other states involved?
Yes.
Or what other
Actually,
states?
this is we have our inaugural queen. You know, that was crowned in 2 years ago. Yeah. Okay. So we've had two queens. We're going on our second queen right now.
Okay.
Yeah. And all the other states, and, you know, maybe a lot of Texas. Believe it or not, I mean, there were a lot of, you know, like Texas girls there. But we want
that kind of makes sense.
We want to expand that just a little bit more to add Minnesota and North Dakota and South Dakota and Iowa and Wisconsin, and one of the ways we're doing this, we have the Miss Juneteenth T-shirt that we sell as well.
Right.
So it's a fundraiser to help kind of, you know, get everybody there and so forth and so on. But once again, Juneteenth speaks. Go to the page. A lot of details there. The details of the Juneteenth celebration going on throughout the city and the state of Minnesota is also on that page. Right. Yeah. That's so awesome. Yeah, and yes, you're all on that page. I put you the poster right over there.
That's a great segue. That was really awesome. So here in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, we are having a Juneteenth celebration hosted by Kutaska and many community partners here in Grand Rapids. And that is going to be June 19th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And it is at the KAXE Rotary Tent. And I believe the address for that is 260 Northeast 2nd Street. I hope it is.
Yeah.
It'll be on your website, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is on the website.
I can't keep these numbers.
It is on our website, on the event page at kutaska.org. And we are going to have catering by Big O's Chef House there. We're going to have several performers. We're going to have vendors there, and we're also going to join in on the Flight for Freedom.
Oh, the Juneteenth Flight for Freedom.
Yep. So we're going to have kites there for people to decorate and get up in the air for that Flight for Freedom.
And that, to me, it represents so much. It represents the idea of freedom in itself. The idea is that we get 158 kites up in the air because it's the 157th year of the celebration of Juneteenth, and then one more year for the coming year of freedom. So that's why we want to get 158 kites up in the air to represent, the Juneteenth Flight for Freedom. And it's not just so much freedom, but it's also the idea of honoring our ancestors. When you create your kite, put your ancestors' name on the kite. Right. Your family legacy, your history, put that on the kite and extend it up there.
Yep.
So the Juneteenth Flight. So thank you for that. I appreciate for joining the Juneteenth Flight for Freedom.
Right.
Absolutely. And the kites that we have there are they are a blank canvas, and so you can decorate it and design it in any way that you'd like. So we just welcome the whole of the community and the surrounding communities to join us in this celebration. And I just really want to push that. Like Mr. Jordan said, this is our shared history, and so this is a celebration of our history
and freedom, celebration
of freedom
as well.
Of freedom in this country, in this state, in this community.
Absolutely.
And it's something that we should be celebrating together. So I just invite everyone to join us on that day, June 19th, from 11 to 2 p.m. for that celebration here in Grand Rapids.
Well, thank y'all for the opportunity to come and to share, because I'm Juneteenth. I just don't celebrate Black History in February. I just don't celebrate freedom just in June. I'm 24/7.
Right.
Yeah, and because once again, as I repeat, and I know I'm paraphrasing, but none are free until we all are free.
That's right.
And this is the opportunity to help bring that about.